Hello, and welcome to the About Healing podcast, a show created for those on or awakening into their spiritual journeys, and who are ready, wanting, and learning how to heal themselves. I am your host, About Healing medium and certified spiritual healer, Sheree Buckman. It is my purpose to guide others to the path of self-healing and to inspire those on their spiritual journeys in finding their truths. Join me as I share my experience and unfiltered perspective in healing, as well as the incredible wisdom of the loving energy that guides us. Let's begin. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of About Healing podcast. I am so happy that you are here today, and I want to start this episode by pulling a card from the Sacred Self-Care Oracle deck to help us on this beautiful self-care healing journey we're on. Again, this deck is by Jill Pyle. The card I drew today for every single one of us for this divine timing of everybody listening, it is Take a Walk. And so I will read out of the book. Experience a moving meditation and nourish your mind, body, and spirit simultaneously. I cannot say that word to save my life, but you know what I mean. By carving out time to go on a walk. Commit to making a week-long routine where you go on one each day, even if it's only for a short time. Journal about how this makes you feel and the revelations that come during your walks. Soon you'll see how much balance and joy they bring to your day. Go out into nature, be physically active, meditate, and be in awe of Mama Nature's beauty all at once. To keep things interesting, find somewhere local that you haven't been before and would like to explore, like a park, trail, or botanical garden. Schedule a walking date with a loved one for something different to do together. And for those of you looking for a journal prompt to go with your card, this week's is, what sights, sounds, and smells do you notice when you go for walks? And how do these things make you feel?
Have you been enjoying our weekly card readings? Well, then we have a special deal for you. We've partnered with goddessprovisions.com as an affiliate to offer you a discount on all their fabulous products. Receive 10% off your minimum purchase of $25, which can also be applied to your first subscription box. Use code ABOUTHEALING to apply your discount and support the About Healing podcast.
Again, loving these cards and their perfect timing when it's going with the topics of our episodes. You notice, right? So when I speak, I mostly, every episode and the topics and the guidance that I like to discuss are usually on mental, emotional, and our spiritual journeys. But today we're going to take some time to discuss our physical wellness. We are going to actually be taking just a few episodes over the next few episodes to discuss our physical well-being. So I want to be clear here. I am no expert in our physical body health. Okay. However, I feel it is just as important to share with you what I have learned along my journey in seeing a larger perspective of healing. So I am going to share my perspective and what I've learned in this episode. And then I'm going to follow up over the next few episodes with those who are experts in their fields. So stay tuned. It's going to be wonderful and exciting. What we do with, put in, and on our bodies affects our health just as much as how we feel and think of ourselves. One of the most important lessons I learned in understanding my physical health is that what was right for me was very different than what was right for others. So, I took many years to learn how to weed through all the popular fads, the food, the exercise diets, the trends, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to learn how to really stop thinking. I had to turn down the ego, that thinking mind, and I had to turn up my intuition, and I had to start listening to my body. That is actually harder than it sounds because I had to start trusting that I actually had all the answers. But it's true. Our bodies already hold the answers and knowledge for what we need. It's about tuning in and listening while also not holding judgment for ourselves. And isn't that just about the hardest thing to do? We've been talking about that over the last few episodes also about those judgments we hold for ourselves, how we see ourselves, about the choices we make. When we are able to begin allowing our bodies to speak and ignoring all the popular trends and what everybody else says and their opinions, you will find that you will feel healthier than ever before and actually begin to physically thrive. So, this is where I want to begin the lessons and sharing with you my history and what I've learned. Thriving. Isn't that the goal that we're all here and trying to do is to stop surviving our life, of living our life the same every day and just begin to bloom and burst and thrive in joy and excitement and health. Well, that's been my journey. Like I had mentioned before in the last previous episodes, I have put a lot of time and intention and emphasis on my mental and emotional and spiritual health. And this year, starting really into last year, I began putting a lot of energy into my physical, to really understanding it and really understanding the balance there and what it means to physically thrive. Thriving in our physical bodies is completely obtainable, just as our mental and emotional health. However, it requires complete honesty with yourself. That's not easy. And that is a part of the healing journey that a lot of people aren't ready for, which is why they don't go into it. And that's okay. For anyone who is not ready for it, that's okay. But those of you who are ready to go deep inside and start asking the really deep, hard questions, this is what it's about. Just like healing from trauma and our childhood and all of the other imbalances or the difficult journeys we've been on, the physical is just the same. Most often, our physical bad habits are associated with our mental and emotional health. So, this is why I explained in the first episode about the interlinking of our whole self wellness. When one is out of alignment, it can throw the others out. Because I want to put the examples here for that and what I mean by our physical bad habits, right? This is talking about, our overeating, right? Those who overeat, it's like eating our emotions. Haha, been there, done that. That's me. I'm an emotional eater. I am. When I'm sad, I want something sweet to make me happy. When I feeling out of control of something, then I want to eat something. That's just the way that I had compensated, overcompensating those emotions or that lack. I went there. But for some of you, it's also under eating too, right? So we under eat when we're so stressed, we can't even stomach food. So then we don't eat. Well, that's not healthy either. And then we're looking at that substance use. And those are those who are escaping reality or trauma or stress and anxiety. They're kind of just looking for that escaping or, lethargy. If I'm saying that correctly, I'm having a hard time saying words today. So I apologize in advance, but it's those that are not wanting to move and what we call the couch potatoes, or we go through those moments or those times, right? And that's about hiding from reality. So if I don't put myself out there, if we don't do much, then we're hiding from it. And then we feel safer in that little zone. Or you have the other side of it, right? Which is the obsessive physical activity. And that could be those that are really struggling about the ideals of perfection. They have to go, 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 and always be productive and doing these things. These are the type of habits that I'm talking about, right? The physical bad habits. These are the extremes in one way or the other. True healing requires you to be vulnerable and accepting where you are and how you got there. It is taking accountability for your actions and or your inactions. No one can tell you when or how to begin this process. It is an individual choice, and knowing the time is right to begin choosing you and taking care of yourself. That's it. No one can tell you how to get out or what you're doing to yourself. Some people may try to bring awareness to you, And that could be helpful, having awareness. Awareness is good. Remember, we can't do anything or change anything without awareness. I really felt guided as I was creating this episode that I broke down the physical wellness, or really about physical energy, into three categories. Now, like I said, I am not an expert on physical health. However, I am an expert in understanding energy and how it affects us. And that's what I want to talk about. So, the three categories. We're first going to talk about how energy affects our physical body. And the first one is by what we ingest, right? What we put into our bodies. This was a big deal for me to understand as I began to really become aware about how my body reacts and interacts with certain foods and things that I put in my system. And as I began my spiritual journey, or understanding myself on multiple levels, not just my physical being in the ego state, but the energy affects me completely. And food is one of them. What you ingest has the power to fuel and energize you just as well as it has the power to dim and drain you. Food and what you put into your body is beautiful and actually has the power to heal you. And I want to put this into perspective by sharing just this small little story. I have someone in my life who had a cancer, who say had a cancer scare. Let me rephrase. They had cancer. And this person chose to not take the chemical way, meaning they didn't want to do chemo or radiation. They didn't want to go along that journey. They did the research, they saw the side effects for it, and they had decided that no matter what direction it would go, they did not want to treat their body worse, I guess, so to speak. I also want to be clear here, no matter what choice you make, and I'm going to get to all that here in a little bit, that's your choice. But this is the choice this person made. I actually thought it was beautiful because of what they did. They decided that they wanted to do this holistically. This person just had this intuition feeling that this was right for them. They knew it. They just knew they needed to find another way. And they did. This person searched for doctors and had to find the right doctors. And they went to a few of them that was willing to listen to them and how they wanted to go about their healing journey in this, their physical healing journey. And this person knew that they wanted to use food as medicine. They read all the books, every book they can find by doctors, by holistic doctors, or just people in general talking about real food. They completely changed their diet. I mean, completely. Eating as holistically as possible, from plant-based, and if they ate meat, it was all organic, grass-fed. It was a really big deal. They started treating their body truly as that temple, so to speak, being very aware of everything they put into their body. Long story short, it took time, but let me tell you, and they did have one procedure they decided towards the end. And this person has been cancer free, I think 2 years now. Their levels are so low, and it is fantastic. But watching this person go through that taught me a lot of things about food itself. I was watching that. And by the way, like I was in total awe by this experience to see this and to understand how the natural elements can also heal us. It was real. This was a real situation. And it was beautiful. And I learned so much from it. And it was at that time I started becoming really aware of what I started putting in my body without judging it. Because let me tell you, oh, ho, 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 before that, I used to judge all of it. If people were doing those fad diets or the organic, because that's expensive, what? All this stuff. I used to judge it, and speak about it until I began to learn about it, and it changed everything. So instead of talking about my total diet and all of those pieces, I want to share with you at least some of these pieces. If you've never really looked at it, some of these you may already know, but I want to talk about the way certain foods interact with our energy, right? So I want to talk about energy downers. I'm sure you already know these. Let's start that list. Guess what? It's the stuff we love that's delicious. It's the sugar, people. The sugar is actually an energy downer. Yes, you might get that sugar rush or that spike, but it actually reduces our energy. Also, I call it the heavy meats. It's really the red meats. Believe it or not, especially with someone, again, I work with energy. This is what I do for a living. I have to maintain my energy and raise my energy and get into the higher places. And the only way to do that is actually, I don't eat meat anymore. I gave up meat a while ago. But there were so many books and other people that use energy too, where red meat, if they eat red meat, it kind of drowns them. Red meat is heavy. And so that is one thing, is to understand the more red meat you eat, it actually reduces your energy. Also heavy meals, it's that overeating. When you overeat, it's like Thanksgiving dinner. And you eat Thanksgiving and all you want to do is what? Nap afterwards because we're overeating and overeating. So we've over compensated that food. So we're overloading our system and energetically, right? I'm only talking about the energy pieces. We have maxed it out where we actually need to have time before we can use our energy again. Processed foods. This is an energy downer. Processed foods, or anything you really define in a box or a can, any of those pieces, those are all processed. That means they have additional chemicals that are not natural, and they are not natural to our bodies, which causes us to slow down, which slows our energy down, making it harder for us to stay at the higher vibrations. And then it is caffeine and also alcohol. Both of these are downers. It's kind of hard to think of caffeine as a downer because it makes your heart race and does all the things. But that's the point. It is a chemical that our body does not actually need. It's something that we also become dependent on, right? To wake up. Hey, no judgment here. I drink coffee in the morning. I love my cup of coffee in the morning and I can't wait for it. And my kids in the morning, they see me all sleepy. They're like, "Did you have your coffee yet?" No, I did not. But it is, the more caffeine we take, it's like a stimulant, right? So stimulants will increase our energy for a moment, but it's tainted. Does that make sense? So on an energy level, that energy is tainted. It's like synthetic energy. I don't know how to really describe this. It's like synthetic energy. So it's not our most natural form and it does not raise our vibration. It actually lowers our vibration. So while we may be more awake or running around or whatever it is, it's that our vibration, right? Our frequency is lowered with these type of products. And that's what I'm trying to get across and explain. And I'm hoping it's coming through. So let's talk about the energy uppers. Well, what does sustain us? What does help our frequency and our vibration? It's eating as clean as possible. It is the plant-based, right? Eating things that you can grow. It is organic, free range meats. That's the type of food that raises your energy and your frequency. It is something to understand here when I'm talking about meat. I am not passing judgment. That is a personal choice. If you love bacon, then you love bacon. Eat it up. I do not personally eat meat anymore. I eat fish and I eat eggs. Okay, those are my meats. So I don't eat meat anymore. But here's the reason why. This was a personal choice for me. And this is what I'm talking about, understanding your own energy. I used to have a lot of stomach issues growing up. I used to have tons. I would eat so much. I've seen doctors getting tested for everything and trying to understand where my stomach issues were coming from. Every test came back negative. Nothing seemed right. So they're like, well, then we call it IBS if we don't know. Okay. It wasn't happening all the time, but I couldn't pinpoint what I was eating that did this to me until I decided to stop eating meat for a short amount of time. And there was so many reasons to that. It's because there was something I read and it talked about it affecting my energy and I'm like, "Well, I want to test this theory. Does it help me and my energy and what I do?" And within just a couple of weeks, I started noticing I not once had any stomach issues, not once. And so I stopped eating meat and I've given it up a couple of years now. And not once in those couple of years have I had one stomach issue, not one. And for me, this is mine. That's what my body needed. But I gave it up for multiple reasons. So it was my stomach issues. It was also, save the animals. I love animals. So that's just kind of where it was. But also, it was about understanding my energy. So I have to really watch what I am ingesting and what I'm putting into my body because of the work I do. Do these heightened states of love vibrations, especially speaking to my clients and talking to you about all of these beautiful topics, is that everything I put into my body affects my energy. And it will hinder me if I'm not being mindful about it. It will hinder me from reaching those heights, being able to reach those frequencies to share that with you. And this is why I'm sharing this with you. Other items about ingesting to be aware of. We need to talk about those medications. I'm going to be extremely clear right here. My disclaimer: I am not a medical professional in any way, and do not replace anything that I am saying with any of your doctor's recommendations. However, being aware of the amount and types of medications you are taking, whether you're taking over the counter or prescriptions, right? We need to start asking the right questions and being aware of it, doing the research. For so long, we have had it, and I'm not saying everybody, I mean, be clear, it's not everybody, but I do know people, and I was one of them, where I just figured there were, whether you were a doctor or you were in certain fields, that you knew everything. But come to find out, guess what? Everybody's human and we all have our choices, and you have to do the research for yourself and make choices for yourself, right? So, what I am talking about here is about learning and asking about the ingredients and side effects and discussing with your medical professional for the best guidance for you that includes your history. I'm talking about being your own advocate. That's all I mean. And bringing that awareness in for yourself about what you're taking. Does the positive reaction to the medication outweigh the side effects? Those are conversations to have with your medical health professionals. Many medications are meant as a temporary solution to assist you in healing, to regulate yourself. Not all of them. There are some people that do require, but I'm talking about the general consensus here, right? As I mentioned, your whole self wellness is tied together. Are you taking medications because of back issues? Ask yourself, why do you have back issues in the first place? I bring this one up as an example because this was a personal lesson for me. I used to have really, really bad back issues. I There was a time before my awakening and understanding what I do, and understanding again my body and the energy and everything. I was seeing a chiropractor 3 days a week in extreme pain. I was taking Tylenol, ibuprofen, the heat stuff, and what I could to help with my back issues. I have been in car accidents. I had scoliosis. My back or my spine went in the other direction. There was a time I had pinched nerves, the whole works. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, I just have a really bad back and I'm going to have to deal with this for the rest of my life. Long story short, what I had learned to find in my journey to healing was that all of my stress, all of my fears and anxiety, I held in my back. So it would tighten up. It was in the shoulder. So I held stress in my back. I held my fears in my lower back. And when I really got into my healing journey, I stopped having back issues. I haven't been to a chiropractor or a doctor or taken anything for my back in any way, shape, or form in years now. In years. I learned that's just where I held a lot of my energy. I held it. I held it in my back, which caused the issues. So for me, in that, I came to understand, and that's what I mean by asking yourself, why do you have these issues in the first place? And digging. That's why you have to be ready to understand these physical healing aspects, because you have to be open to the honest and hard questions. It's really looking at all these pieces, because the more healing you do, even on the emotional and the mental side, it helps release even your physical issues, those ailments that we have talked about before. They are all linked together. And sometimes we have these physical issues that affects our mental and our emotional and how we see ourselves in the world. So again, going back and forth and understanding that. And then of course, as we talk about the things that we ingest, we have to talk about, just for a quick moment, the substance use. We're talking about excessive uses of alcohol, illegal drugs, non prescribed medications, and anything used for the high or for the out of mind experience. Yes, addiction is real, but what draws you to use it? I recently had a conversation, some real conversations with someone who is a recovering addict. And it's true. And it was talking about healing in general, right? It was for them to understand why they wanted to use it in the first place. It was the all of the emotional and the mental health stuff that they had to, and the trauma they had to get to understand, to release the want or need to want to use it, because that's the initial start of it, right? It's the initial need, the initial want is to try to disappear or trying to run away from things. I'm just bringing the perspective here. That's all I'm talking about here. And also, I just, the last piece here on the ingest part was paying attention to your surroundings about what you inhale. Do you live in a home or around people who smoke or even use their vaping thing? First and foremost, so you have to understand, one of my jobs in a before this, I was a substance abuse prevention person. I don't even remember, my director of. I spoke to schools and I had to do all the research and understanding, drugs and alcohol and the effects. By the way, for any, vaping is not water based; it is chemical. So otherwise, they wouldn't get the higher what they needed out of it. So whatever they exhale is actually chemical based. So please understand that it affects you as well, and when you're around all of these things. So it is around, if you're living by a factory, or remember that everything you inhale affects you and your physical health as well. Okay, moving on to the second category here. It's about what we exert, right? So this is about our energy that we put out. So it is about putting the awareness here. So I want to talk about our activity levels, right? So activity, our physical movement creates positive energy, right? So when we talk about working out, or really a lot of that physical energy, we have physical experts that come in and we talk about the chemical reactions. What kind of things do we release, right? We're talking about endorphins, dopamine, things like that. And they create a runner's high. This runner's high is actually a state of reduced anxiety and euphoria. The thing is that our physical movement is an energy amplifier. The more we move, you guys, especially taking that walk from our card that we drew today, it is beautiful. It amplifies our energy. It is creating space, because the more we move, we are releasing old, dense energy that we collect. It's true. It like shakes off, because the more we move, it's a positive charge to our system. And so anything heavy or on the negative end kind of releases and falls off of us. That's why we have this reduced anxiety. We can think clearer after exercise and movement, even if it's simple stretching. Now, while we do have this side of this physical activity of movement, it is just as important to have rest, because rest is how we recharge. But it's also important here to understand that there's two extremes here. That if you take too much rest, right? If you're sitting around for a long period of time, and again, it's that couch potato syndrome, all of a sudden our battery dies. Think about it like a car, right? If you have a car that sits for too long and is never used, you're going to have to jump that battery. The battery's dead because it hasn't been used enough to keep the charge. So you can recharge, but too much burns out. So it's the same thing with our activity level. If we go too hard too fast, right, we are amplifying our energy, but we can burn it out too. So it's understanding the balance there, and where's that peak performance. So we do want the activity. We need to let go of the negative and amplify our positive, and then we need to rest so that we are recharging it and restabilizing. That is what our energy body needs. I'm talking about our energy body there that affects our physical body. And the third category of what I want to talk to you about the physical energy is also being aware of the topical things that we put on our bodies. We absorb the energy of everything we touch and put on. So it is about paying attention to the products we use for our skin because that is just as important about what we ingest. So I want to mention here for a minute because this is important. I'm talking about the ingest and what we put on. You have to understand that food is energy, right? So if you were eating food and it's paying attention to the types of food you buy. So if you're in, for me, I buy free range organic eggs. Yes, they're expensive. They're expensive. However, there is a difference, and I notice in my energy levels if I were to do that or eat kind of the cheaper eggs that are available because what you eat, you are absorbing their energy. It's the same thing like with animals, right? That's why I don't eat the animals. Those that were kept in pens and very horrible, like living situations, you're absorbing that energy. You're absorbing their fears and their triggers and that trauma that these animals went through. It's the same thing even with the eggs. So I do the organic free range, usually small farm eggs because again, a lot of these, and I'm not saying all of them, right? But you have what I call the happier chickens, right? That are living life and they have the free range because even cage free, that's just a bigger cage that they're all in together. These are the things that I've learned, but this is the way that I see it. And this is how I am perceiving the energy of what I'm putting in my body. So I choose these better products, especially with the animal products of how they are being raised, right? Because if it is better energy, if these animals are in better energy, I am absorbing that better, higher energy also. And it goes in the reverse, the lower energy items. So it is the same for our topical items as well. So we're talking about skincare products, right? Our makeup, our lotions, moisturizers, our soaps, cleansers, etc., etc. We need to look at how they're made. Think about it. Does the company test on animals? It's about what kind of energy they're putting out. Are they just out to make the money? And so they're testing on these animals and they're just creating things with all of these chemicals to make a buck. It's paying attention to that. Or are they also made in factories overseas where the people are making them? Are they being treated in poor conditions? Because you're also absorbing that energy. It goes with these items. It's all a transfer of energy. You also have to think about what you wear, your clothing, perfumes, the blankets, the shoes, and those items that you wear too. Remember, everything we touch, everything we put on our body is absorbed through our skin. Not just on that chemical level absorbed, energy absorbed, affecting our frequencies. Are they natural or synthetic? Synthetic doesn't mean bad. However, it is about the chemical makeup. It's about understanding what are the ingredients, even in your clothing and any product you use, because most are made from toxins. These synthetics, right, are made from toxins, including formaldehyde, which we absorb through the skin. We also have to think about how they are made. It affects our environment. Think about the factories. You have all these chemicals that go into these products. Well, when they're making them, they're usually heated up and everything is released into our environment, into the air in which we inhale. It is just about seeing the bigger picture and understanding what is best for us. And with anything, especially with all of these pieces that I just talked about today, this was my understanding and where I'm at in my journey. Only take with you what feels right for you. Do your own research. You may not feel the same way nor make the same choices as me. Fantastic. It is about finding your truth. I just wanted to share with you about how our choices and what we put on and in and use our bodies for affects our energy. More specifically, how it affects our frequency and vibration and how it switches our survival to thriving. Because the better we are aware of how things affect our own physical body, we can adjust and make choices for ourselves. But it is using your instincts and it's a little trial and error. And it's okay if you're not perfect. And it's okay that you make mistakes or you eat your cookies. Dang it, good for you. I still eat mine too. But it is about simply being aware, asking questions, and doing the research to understand what affects you and how. I had no idea all my life that what I ate did or even wore affected my physical well being. The more I paid attention and learned about every product I use, the better I feel. It's like tiny, small, heavy layers being peeled off to allow more fresh air and energy through my physical body. The changes I have made were for me because I energetically feel better, which has brought me to a healthier state of physical awareness. The key to our physical wellness, as with everything, is awareness and balance. That is how we thrive. It never makes sense unless you are in a time and place where you are ready to see the bigger picture and be honest with yourself. It's okay if you're not there, and it's okay that you are. But no matter what in this journey, and until next time, you beautiful souls, be kind to yourself.
With so much love and gratitude, I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode. My hope today is that the message continues to guide you along your path to healing. To learn more about me and my purposeful work, visit my website at abouthealingmedium.com. You can also follow About Healing Medium on Facebook and Instagram, where you can find the episode's healing guidance, quotes, tips, insights, and chances to win free stuff. To ask a question or to share comments, email me at abouthealingpodcast@gmail.com, or feel free to reach me on Facebook and Instagram at About Healing Medium. Until next time, be kind to yourself.